There were not many people who understood just how broad his interests were and how supportive he was of an astonishingly wide range of organisation.
For the final chapters of their astonishing 73-year marriage, Prince Philip made a choice that shocked the public and puzzled the tabloids. He didn't live full-time alongside Queen Elizabeth II. Instead, he retreated to a modest 5-bedroom farmhouse miles away from the glittering palaces that define royal life. While the world speculated, the truth of their private lives remained closely guarded. But thanks to revelations from those who understood them best, we can now unravel the reality behind Britain's longest married royal couple spending their later years apart. This is the untold story of Philip and Elizabeth's extraordinary arrangement and why, against all appearances, it actually made perfect sense. The upper-class tradition nobody talks about. Long before Philip claimed his countryside retreat, the Duke and the Queen had already embraced an arrangement that might surprise modern couples. Separate bedrooms. Lady Pamela Hicks, Philip's cousin and a trusted lady-in-waiting to the late monarch, explained that this was far from unusual among the British upper class. In fact, it was a long-standing tradition rooted in practicality and respect for personal space. In her 2012 biography, Elizabeth the Queen, The Life of a Modern Monarch, Lady Pamela provided a candid glimpse into this aristocratic custom. She noted, "In England, the upper class has always had separate bedrooms. You don't want to be bothered with snoring or someone flinging a leg around. But the arrangement wasn't about coldness or distance. It was about choice, comfort, and the ability to sleep undisturbed. When you feel cozy, you can sometimes choose to share your room. It is lovely to be able to choose," she wrote, revealing the quiet wisdom behind a practice often misunderstood by the public. When Elizabeth and Philip moved into Clarence House in 1949, this arrangement was already in place. Their bedrooms were adjacent but connected, with doors allowing them to come together or remain apart as they pleased. This setup gave them flexibility, ensuring both intimacy and personal privacy. Remarkably, this pattern endured for their entire marriage, from the wedding night in 1947 to Philip's passing in 2021. Their rooms remained side by side, connected yet independent, a perfect blend of togetherness and space. Throughout their royal residences, Buckingham Palace, Windsor Castle, Balmoral, Sandringham, the tradition persisted. The Duke and Queen consistently maintained their own sleeping quarters, and while this might seem unusual to the modern eye, in aristocratic British culture, it was entirely normal, even expected. The results were undeniable. 73 years of a deeply devoted marriage, far longer than most couples who share a bed every night. There is a subtle wisdom here. Intimacy doesn't require co-sleeping. Love can thrive when each partner has space to breathe. For Philip and Elizabeth, separate bedrooms were never a sign of trouble. They were a foundation for harmony and mutual respect. Wood Farm, Philip's retirement sanctuary. August 2017 marked the next pivotal chapter. Prince Philip officially retired from public duties at the age of 96. After completing more than 22,000 solo engagements since 1952, it was clear he had earned his rest. But where would a man who had lived a life of constant ceremony and duty choose to spend his twilight years? Not Buckingham Palace, with its 775 rooms and endless protocol. Not Windsor Castle, with its historical grandeur. Not even Sandringham, beloved by the Queen for its traditional charm. He chose Wood Farm, a modest 5-bedroom cottage on the Sandringham estate overlooking the sea. The cottage offered no pomp, no uniforms, no ceremonial weight, just comfort, freedom, and the quiet rhythm of daily life. Shortly after retiring, Philip supervised a new kitchen installation, hung his own paintings, and redesigned spaces to suit his lifestyle. He transformed the cottage into a personal haven where the pressures of royal life could not intrude. From 2017 until early 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic forced him to return to Windsor for safety alongside the Queen, Wood Farm became Philip's primary residence. The house offered opportunities for quiet pursuits, reading, painting watercolours, a hobby he had cherished for decades, and before the pandemic, hosting friends for relaxed gatherings. Staff did not wear formal uniforms, and the Queen herself reportedly cooked and washed dishes during visits. Just imagine that. The Queen of England whisking meals, doing dishes, in a private cottage devoid of royal formalities. Wood Farm represented something deeper than a house. It symbolised privacy, normalcy, and freedom for Philip, who had spent 7 decades walking 3 steps behind the monarch, bowing to protocol and maintaining perfect composure under public scrutiny. It was liberation in its purest form. He reportedly ran a small truffle farm on the grounds, painted in vivid reds, and entertained friends informally, a stark contrast to the rigid ceremonial life of Buckingham Palace. After decades of devoted service, Philip had earned the right to decide how he would spend his remaining years, and he chose simplicity, comfort, and autonomy. Why they lived separately. The tabloids loved the drama. An elderly royal couple living apart, surely a marriage in crisis. But the reality was far more practical. Following Philip's 2017 retirement, Elizabeth remained fully engaged with her royal duties in London, attending weekly meetings with the Prime Minister, investitures, receptions, and handling the machinery of state. Philip, now free of obligations, had no reason to maintain the exhausting schedule of palace life. Living apart made perfect logistical sense. Yet this separation was not estrangement. They met regularly, far more than the press often realised. The Queen frequently visited Wood Farm, a location Philip cherished deeply. After his death, Elizabeth even flew by helicopter to spend several weeks at the cottage, immersed in memories of quiet moments shared away from the public eye. This private sanctuary held profound emotional significance, a space where the pressures of royalty melted away, leaving simply Elizabeth and Philip. Elizabeth's need to fulfill her royal role until her final breath was matched by Philip's desire for peace and rest. Their separate living arrangements allowed both to honour their needs while maintaining their bond. They demonstrated that love doesn't always follow the conventions society expects. Sometimes it thrives in quiet freedom. The deep royal history of Wood Farm. Wood Farm's significance stretches far beyond Philip's retirement. The Duke first chose it in 1967 as a retreat for family members and guests, far removed from the costs and formality of the main estate. Over the decades, it became a private refuge. Prince Charles hosted shooting parties there during his college years and continued to use it as a country retreat into adulthood. Princess Diana stayed there before her engagement to Charles, and Catherine Middleton visited during the early days of her relationship with Prince William. Guests seeking total privacy found solace within its walls. Yet Wood Farm's history also carries traces of tragedy. In 1917, King George V and Queen Mary sent their youngest son, Prince John, to reside there due to severe epilepsy. Tragically, he passed away at just 13 in 1919. Despite this sorrow, the cottage evolved into a place of comfort and refuge for the family. By the time Philip chose Wood Farm for his retirement, he wasn't picking a random property. He was returning to a place steeped in personal and family history, a sanctuary he had carefully developed over decades. Life at Wood Farm. So, what did Philip actually do at Wood Farm? His life there was a picture of remarkable simplicity, especially for someone of his rank. He painted watercolours, read extensively, corresponded with friends, and personalised every corner of the cottage. He redecorated walls, reimagined bedrooms, and designed spaces to suit his tastes. The cottage gave him autonomy, control, and freedom, things he had rarely been able to fully enjoy under palace protocol. When Elizabeth visited, they could relax in ways impossible elsewhere. Together, apart, side by side, or in adjoining rooms, they maintained a rhythm that worked perfectly for them. They proved that intimacy and harmony do not require constant proximity. What emerges is a portrait of two people in their 90s, choosing comfort, privacy, and genuine connection over the expectations of the public or the press. Wood Farm was not just a cottage. It was a reward for a lifetime of duty, a refuge from ceremony, and a place where love could exist unguarded by rules or scrutiny. And in the quiet of that seaside retreat, away from the world's eyes, the Duke and Queen could simply be themselves, sharing a life defined not by protocol, but by trust, choice, and decades of deep, enduring companionship. Philip's years at Wood Farm reveal the beauty of simplicity, the wisdom of personal space, and the quiet power of respect in a marriage that lasted longer than most in history. And when Elizabeth visited something she did regularly, they could relax in ways that were impossible at official residences. Biographer Robert Jobson highlighted the unique charm and history of Wood Farm, a Grade II listed cottage tucked away on a secluded part of the Queen's Sandringham estate. With sweeping views of the sea, it had long been a private escape for Queen Elizabeth and her late husband, Prince Philip. For over 50 years, the cottage was where the Queen, Philip, and their 4 children retreated to relax, away from the glare of cameras and the relentless pace of palace life. Jobson further revealed that in his twilight years, Philip chose Wood Farm as his retirement home with the Queen's full blessing. Unlike the grandeur of Buckingham Palace, where dozens of staff anticipated every need, Wood Farm operated under simple, informal rules. Here, the Queen herself cooked and even washed dishes during her stays. Imagine the contrast. At Buckingham Palace, meals were prepared by a legion of attendants, bedrooms maintained to perfection, and every whim fulfilled without a thought. At Wood Farm, it was just the couple, quietly living a domestic life stripped of ceremony and expectation. This is what made the cottage so extraordinary. It represented normalcy, simplicity, and the freedom to be themselves. After decades of Philip walking 3 steps behind Elizabeth, supporting her reign while sacrificing his own naval career and personal ambitions, he had finally earned the right to live quietly. He could paint, read, entertain friends, and enjoy life on his own terms. Elizabeth understood and respected this. She gave him the space to retire with dignity, while she continued to fulfill her duties as the monarch. The COVID reunion and their final years together, Philip's peaceful life at Wood Farm came to an abrupt pause in March 2020, when the COVID-19 pandemic swept across Britain. At 98 years old, he was firmly in the highest risk category. Until then, Wood Farm had been his sanctuary, where he could enjoy quiet days surrounded by the sea breeze, personal hobbies, and minimal public interference. However, the pandemic forced a move back to Windsor Castle, where he could remain with the Queen under protective measures. For the first time in years, the couple were living together full-time. Royal biographers referred to their arrangement as the HMS bubble, just the 2 of them, isolated from the world with minimal staff. In many ways, it was the most uninterrupted time they had shared in decades. Philip's health was declining. He had experienced multiple hospital stays, and his mobility was increasingly limited. Yet, together, they faced the pandemic's uncertainty, finding strength in each other's presence. On April 9th, 2021, Prince Philip, Duke of Edinburgh, passed away at Windsor Castle at the age of 99. His death followed a period of ill health that included a hospital stay for an infection and a pre-existing heart condition. Though he did not die at Wood Farm, his final months were marked by a profound connection with Elizabeth in the place where they weathered the early pandemic together. In the months following his passing, Elizabeth visited Wood Farm several times, turning it into a place of memory, reflection, and mourning. The cottage where they had spent so many quiet moments together had become sacred ground in her final years. By September 2022, Elizabeth returned to Wood Farm repeatedly. She reportedly stayed at Sandringham until at least February 6th, the anniversary of her father, King George VI's death, choosing Philip's cottage over the main house. This was not an avoidance of memories. It was an embrace of them. Wood Farm had become a repository of joy, a sacred space where Philip had been happiest during his final independent years. Lessons on marriage from Philip and Elizabeth. The story of Philip and Elizabeth's separate living arrangements challenges our assumptions about what a successful marriage looks like. Society often believes that couples should be inseparable, assuming physical proximity equates to emotional intimacy. We tend to think that separate bedrooms or separate homes signal trouble. Yet, their 73-year marriage proves the opposite. From their very first home together, they maintained separate bedrooms, a long-standing upper-class British tradition designed to prioritise rest, comfort, and personal space. This practice extended into Philip's retirement years. Elizabeth remained active at Buckingham Palace and Windsor Castle, fully managing the monarchy. Meanwhile, Philip enjoyed his peace at Wood Farm. Despite living apart, their marriage remained robust. They were each other's confidants, They respected one another's needs. Even during the pandemic, Elizabeth travelled to Wood Farm regularly, isolating with Philip to provide companionship and protection. What made their relationship endure? Mutual respect and understanding. Both recognised that individual needs might differ, particularly in their 90s. Togetherness didn't require constant physical proximity. Elizabeth needed to fulfill her royal duties in London, remaining visible, accessible, and working tirelessly. Philip, after 7 decades of service, deserved rest, autonomy, and a quiet life away from protocol. They honoured each other's needs without demanding sacrifice, without letting convention dictate their personal happiness. Perhaps this is the key lesson. The strongest marriages aren't necessarily the ones where couples are inseparable. They are the ones where each person supports the other's individuality while maintaining a deep emotional bond. Philip and Elizabeth demonstrated that love at 90 can be very different from love at 30, adapting to changing circumstances, retirement, health, age is part of a lasting partnership. Living under the same roof is not a prerequisite for devotion. What matters is respect, connection, and shared understanding, values they maintained until Philip's final breath. So why didn't Prince Philip live with the Queen in his final years? He was 96, retired, and had earned the right to enjoy life in a cottage he cherished. Elizabeth remained Queen, bound by duties that required her presence in London. Both were mature adults who understood that love does not depend on sharing the same building. Their bond thrived precisely because it honoured practicality, personal space, and choice. Separate bedrooms, separate residences, decades of independence, it all worked for them. Princess Anne and other family members recognised this nuance, and once the public looked beyond tabloid headlines, they did too. Philip and Elizabeth weren't apart because their marriage had failed. They were apart because their marriage was strong enough to accommodate practical realities while preserving emotional intimacy. Elizabeth continued her royal responsibilities. Philip embraced his peaceful retirement, and together they maintained a partnership built on decades of loyalty, trust, and love. When COVID struck, they reunited without hesitation, spending Philip's final year together at Windsor Castle. Their marriage was not fragile. It was adaptive, resilient, and enduring. Separate bedrooms, separate homes, different schedules, none of it mattered. What mattered was devotion, understanding, and respect. Through their actions, they taught the world that love is about supporting one another, honouring choices, and nurturing connection, even when life circumstances change. This is not the story of a broken marriage. It is one of history's greatest royal love stories, a partnership so solid that it could thrive in the face of decades-long duty, retirement, age, and illness. Philip and Elizabeth's journey shows us that enduring love is not about proximity. It's about harmony, trust, and shared commitment. If this story of enduring love, dedication, and quiet strength moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating royal insights. Stay connected for the untold stories of the British monarchy and the private lives behind the public titles.